Good morning, everybody. It is beautiful. It is, let's see, what day is it? Tuesday, and we are getting started just a little bit later. Had to do a couple things at home this morning, but we're gonna head up to the shop. We're actually gonna do some maintenance on some equipment. We are waiting on a couple of jobs for some customers to be ready to get started on. So we're gonna take today's opportunity to get some equipment maintenance. If you guys remember, we went up to Princeton yesterday, got a big parking lot job knocked out. So first thing we're gonna do is get the skid loader unloaded, and actually that's probably the first thing we're gonna try to do a little bit of maintenance on. I think we're at that 250-hour interval, so we try to get all the fluids and filters changed at about every 250 hours on that thing. So we're gonna drop all the skid plates, open up the cab on it, and that's what I do when I do it full service, is I get everything opened up. And first step to a good maintenance program is always gonna be a good washing, in my opinion. So that's what we're gonna work on first thing this morning. It's a beautiful day. It's gonna be a little bit warmer today than it's been, so it'll be a perfect day to get the pressure washer up and running and get some equipment cleaned up. First things first, maybe a hook, check the trailer. Oh, the other way. So in order to get these access panels out from underneath the skid loader, you can see I really got enough room for me to get underneath there. It's tight and I'm not too skinny, so throw a couple blocks up here, just track over top of those, raises the rear up just enough to where I can get mass underneath there. So much more room for activities. Before we get started, I'll show you guys my system. We've got a cabinet here with all of our owner's manuals for all of our different equipment, and I've got a binder with each piece of equipment, or for each piece of equipment. And on the front here, I've got a list of all the filter numbers from Caterpillar, the serial number. Obviously this one has been washed a time or two on accident. And then down here, I've got all the engine oil capacity, the cooling system capacity. So when I go to replace those fluids, I know exactly how much fluid I need and what type. So pretty convenient. That's what I found out works well for me. And then I have the owner's manual in here as well. I've gotten to the point, especially with that 259, that I don't really need to reference that manual too much. And then back here, I put a date, the number of hours, and then the work that I did. So 1,239 hours. I did engine oil filter, fuel filter, hydro filter, primary air filter, and valve cover hose, or vent hose. There was a hose that had broke and was causing a small oil leak along the side of the, or right off the top of the valve cover. So that was what I did. So now if I ever have a question as what I did and when I did it, come and reference this. I know exactly when I did it. One cover all the way back here. Oh, not the right size. Dang it. All right, there we go. 13 mil. That's why we pull those off. We'll get the cap tilted. So this obviously gives us really good access to the engine compartment here, the front side of the engine compartment. The hydraulic pumps down in there. You can see there's just a lot of sticks and dirt and stuff that gets accumulated in that area. It's just a good thing to get it all cleaned out. Really, the machine's not too terribly dirty overall. It just needs a good washing before we start turning some wrenches on it. So we'll get going on that. The first thing we're gonna do, got the undercarriage attachment here for the pressure washer. You can see this thing kind of like a floor scrubber, if you've ever seen those before. Get out of there. Kind of like a floor scrubber, but upside down. So there's this little thingy here. It's got a couple of nozzles, spins around, sprays up into the air, and then we've got a handle up here. So very convenient, nice for washing the undercarriages of things. Pressure washer turned on. Should be good to go. filters we're gonna swap out. We've got the engine oil filter, fuel water separator, hydraulic filter, and the primary air filter. Every 250 hours, I believe, is a service interval for engine oil. And then I believe the fuel filter is also in that hour. However, the hydraulic oil filter and the primary air filter, I believe, are a little bit further. I think they might be a 500 interval, but nonetheless, they're really not that expensive in the grand scheme of things if you break it down in price per hour. But the biggest thing is, especially with this hydraulic filter, I switch attachments a lot. I mean, it's not uncommon for me to switch attachments, you know, from the Harley rake to the grapple bucket to the forestry mulcher. I've got all sorts of different attachments that run off of the auxiliary hydraulic, and I do try to clean the quick connect, or the quick attach, or I'm sorry, flat face couplers. Gosh, I can't talk today, on the machine every time I go to hook up the hoses. But nonetheless, I know I don't get all of the dirt off of it when I go to hook these up, so I know that I do introduce probably a little bit of dirt into that system, more than what would be expected. So like I said, that hydraulic filter I change out every 250 hours. It's a good peace of mind knowing that I'm getting that filter changed out, and not to mention when I'm on here servicing the rest of the piece of equipment, it's really not that much more time consuming just to swap that filter out. So first thing, we will get the engine oil out of there. The machine's nice and warm, so that oil's gonna flow right out. Next, we'll get the engine oil filter off of here. So it's tucked over here on the side of the engine compartment. You can look at this and think, oh gosh, it's gonna make a mess, but Caterpillar actually had a really good design here. It's almost like they had a team of engineers that were thinking about this. There's a little gutter right underneath the filter. Drains into a hose. You can see that hose right there, and it actually ends up draining underneath the machine to a hose right there. It's gonna fall right into your container. So super good design, makes for easy change and not a big mess. Look at that, they are so smart. All right, now we got the hydraulic filter, and this one is super messy. I just haven't really found a good way to change this without spilling a bunch of hydraulic fluid all over this rear door. So we're gonna try to keep this container underneath of it. I really need about one more hand to get this done, but we're gonna give it a shot. We've got the hydraulic filter changed, the fuel water separator changed, and the engine oil filter is also changed. All the oil's drained out. Now we need to put the new oil back in. And I forgot to mention, actually, we also got the primary air filter changed as well. The only filters we're not going to get changed today are the cabin filter and then the fresh air filter, which is over here. Actually, I didn't have those in my inventory. That's okay though. Those are super easy to change. Get those at a later date. Once we get this thing filled back up with oil, we'll check the rest of the fluids on it, make sure it's all good. Check the track tension. We're gonna grease the Harley rake while we got it out. And then we're gonna raise the cab and check one of the drive hoses for the motors on, I think it's the left side. It sounded like it's making a little humming noise. The hose might be rubbing up against the frame somewhere. And then of course we're gonna grease it. So that'll be that. Sorry I didn't get a video of it. I popped the cab on this thing, raised it up, and checked. I thought yesterday when I was running it, I might have heard just a slight whine, vibration type noise underneath the seat. And what I wanted to do was check the hydraulic lines for the drive motors on each side here, and actually take a look. You can see the hoses that come out of the underneath the machine and go to the drive motors here, and we actually had one of those fail at one time. I believe what had happened was it had made its way up against a piece of the, or part of the frame on the machine, and vibrated a hole into itself. Actually ended up being a very extensive job. Those hoses go all the way back to the hydraulic pump, and it was a big deal. So I didn't notice any power loss or any changes in the performance of the machine yesterday. It was just strictly a noise. So that leads me to believe that it was probably a vibration. I didn't really notice it towards the end of the day, so not sure what happened, but I did just pop the cab, took a look at all those hoses underneath. I did not see a spot where it looked like it was rubbing up against the frame or anything like that, so we'll just cross our fingers and hope it doesn't happen anymore. Might have been nothing. We'll pay attention to make sure that if we notice that noise again, we'll pop the cab again and take another look. Only thing left to do now is gotta do just a little bit of caulking. I've got the top window has a small leak in it right up here, so we're gonna run some window glazing along the edge here just to seal this up, just to keep the water, because every time it rains or I pressure wash it, we get water on the inside of the cab. Pressure washing it's not as big of a deal because I usually wash the inside of the cab out anyways, but I don't like getting rained on. And then after that, all we gotta do is grease it, and the 259 will be ready to go. What we're gonna use on this window is 3M window weld. I said glazing earlier, I forgot it's actually called window weld. But here you can see it's a urethane based. This was what was in the tip when I went to go get it. It had already dried, and it is super strong. Very good product. We used it on the excavator window earlier this year when we had to replace that window. This is the primer, and these are the swabs you use just to prime the area, get it ready for that urethane to stick on there. So we're just gonna run a very small bead along the outside of that window just to keep it from leaking in the future. Now we got it filled up with oil. Went ahead and turned it on, let it run while we greased it. And now, got to shut back off. We'll check. The engine oil level should be good, considering it's filled up to exactly manufacturer's recommendation. And looky there, right on the money. So I'd say she's good. So now that we're all wrapped up, go in here and log the maintenance that was completed today. So 11/3. 1460 hours. I guess I didn't realize we weren't quite at our maintenance interval. So like I was saying earlier, usually we shoot for about 250 hours on the engine oil. We were only at about 177 hours. So we could have probably stretched that out just a little bit farther, but it was a beautiful day. I had the morning opened up, and I did want to get this done. There was a couple other items on that skid loader I wanted to address, so I figured it was a good time to go ahead and get the 250 hour interval done. So no big deal. You see here we did the engine oil, fuel filter, hydro, primary air. We'll probably get those fresh air and cabin air filters swapped out at some point. But yeah, so this is kind of an overview of how we complete our maintenance. I've got a maintenance log in that cabinet we looked at earlier with each piece of equipment that we own. It keeps everything really organized and keeps us on track for the most part, and keeps us informed as to when we need to service our equipment and when the last time is that we did it. So thanks for watching. If you guys have anything you guys do different with your equipment, feel free to share. Love to hear what you guys have to say.